Hey, everybody. It's Wednesday morning, 11 o'clock Central Time. I'm Dr. John Sherk, and that means this is Brown Bag Lunch, where I join you every week with ways to advance your professional career as a technician and ways to lift up and support those around technicians, whether family or managers or whoever. Today, what I want to just kind of plant a little seed about is uh, learning how to manage the expectations of the people around you. This is an important professional skill. If you're a technician and you're in someone's house, um, you do this all the time, but they don't do this very often. So, do you have a way of establishing what they should expect from you by just saying to them, "Here's how this is going to go. I'm going to go troubleshoot. I'll get back to you," and essentially communicating the status of the situation. How about with your kids? Do you routinely have conversations with your kids about what you expect of them in an open-ended way, uh, so that you're not just counting on things like common sense or something like same thing with your spouse. What are we expecting of each other? Now, the same thing would be true with a service manager or a company owner. How do I establish expectations of each other? Because mismatched expectations always create anxiety and frustration, and so um, they have to be managed. Okay, so how do you do it? Well, I'm going to give you two tactics today, and based on response, if you guys want some more of this kind of thing, it can be broken down more. But there are two things to become aware of if you want to manage the expectations of the people around you. The first one is generosity. Now, this will sound odd because you'd think that generosity is basically a good thing, and it is for the most part. However, anytime you're generous, what's happening is you're in some way going beyond uh, a current expectation. Going home early, buying a lunch, giving a raise, doing whatever those things are that you would perceive yourself to be generous. That action begins to fuzz uh, and cloud what is the actual expectation, because the assumption in generosity is that it happens once or twice, but it doesn't happen all the time. But the person who's receiving that generosity may not know that. And so when you're generous with a customer, it quite easily can become an expectation. When you're giving or receiving bonuses at the end of the year that weren't based on hitting a number, they're just discretionary bonuses. Um, those create the expectation that they're going to keep happening, right? So generosity is a very good thing. As you're operating as a leader, being generous with your people is a very good thing, but it has to be balanced with an ongoing management of expectations, right? If you don't manage your expectations, your generosity will come back to bite you at some point, and you'll get frustrated and be tempted to no longer be generous. But but you just have to get better at being generous. There's a balancing act, like a scale. On one side of the scale is generosity. On the other side of the scale is managed expectations. And if you balance them well, you can be very generous. And in general, this is for people when I teach management, we talk about um, making the statement real. I'm in charge, but you're more important than me, right? So, in other words, I'm going to give you with generosity as much as is necessary for you to be able to be successful according to my expectations. Techs, do this with your kids as well. Create the expectation, but then generously offer of yourself uh, to them so that they can meet your expectation, and don't leave it on them only. If you're in a position of service management or owning a company, create hyper clear expectations, but then open up the gate of generosity. And there are many currencies of generosity. It's not only money, it's time, it's patience. There's lots of versions of generosity. Anything that you do that kind of goes above the minimum expectation is really generosity. And so, um, as long as you manage expectations, generosity won't hurt you. If you don't manage expectations, you'll feel at some point like it's coming back to bite you, and you'll want to never do it again. Okay. Now, the second thing is what I call professional agreements. And in a professional environment, professional agreements empower people who feel like they don't have power. So technicians, if you are feeling like you're at the bottom of the totem pole. You're at the bottom of the the power spectrum, the power pyramid. The way to kind of work through that is create a professional agreement. This, again, I would say is a top 10, maybe even top 5 professional skill to develop. Here's what it looks like. Let's say there's a janitor at a company and he is not happy with the toilet paper that's being used in the bathroom. And so he bumps into the president of the company and says, "Hey, I'm noticing we're doing this this kind of toilet paper. I think that we would be much better off if we use that kind of toilet paper instead." And then, the president may want to ask questions about cost and things like that, which is fine. But then the point is, okay, so if I finish this conversation, so can we now agree that we're moving forward with the new toilet paper? Yes. Okay, now we have an agreement. Now let's say in 2 weeks' time, there's nothing changing, right? So what do I do if I'm the janitor? I bump into the president again and I say, "Hey, a quick question. Didn't we agree that we were going to change that toilet paper brand or style or whatever the change was?" Being able to say we agree that cuts through all the power of the organizational chart. Now, the president may say, "You know what? I know we talked about that, but I've changed my mind." Okay. I mean, it doesn't make you all powerful. But what it does is create a point of leverage that's more human and more character based than one that is inside of an organizational chart where people have power. Some of them should not have it, but their title says they do, so they do, right? When you have an agreement, there's a natural leverage and a good one, saying if we trust each other, we can make agreements and we do what we said we were going to do. Because people not doing what they said they're going to do is generally accepted as not a good thing. People want to follow through and do the things that they said they were going to do. And it's just leaning into that natural human tendency, right? So let's say you have a situation where you say, "Can we agree that we're going to follow through on X?" X doesn't happen. We say, "Man, okay, so are we doing this?" Yeah. We're gonna do it. X still doesn't happen. So at some point, the conversation stops being about "didn't we agree that," and saying, do we have the relationship I think we do? Can we trust each other? Because we keep having this conversation and I don't know what's going on here, right? The conversation can, and if you're in a professional environment, you have to do this, with a little bit of savvy. Do it judiciously. Don't don't put someone in a position to where they want to use their formal power against you because they feel manipulated or caught or whatever. But when someone makes agreements and doesn't follow through and is asked, "But didn't we agree that?" and they continue to say they're going to do it and still don't do it, there's a point of leverage in that relationship where you can begin to say, "Now we need to talk about the trust in our relationship. I need to know if I can trust you." Right? Now, when you're doing that as a technician, you have to do that wisely. You cannot, march around the office as if you've got something to hold over the head of the owner of the company. That doesn't work, right? But there is still a real leverage there where, we're kind of having a adult conversation about this and I need to understand what's going on. Okay. So that's it. Managing expectations. Those are two of the important professional skills to develop. How to use generosity in concert with or in association with managed expectations, specifically around the area of generosity, and also forming professional agreements. Because if you can say to someone, "Can we agree that?" and they say yes, you can then say, "Didn't we agree that?" if it doesn't happen, and you have a basis for that conversation that isn't about chasing people down or being worried about, do they remember, and honestly, there are times in that professional agreement cycle where I've worked with people. I said, "Didn't we agree that?" And they said, "No, I thought we were just talking about it." Okay, well now we've got some clarity to work from. Can we make this an agreement? Okay, well now this in place. Or no, I really don't want to do that. I thought we were just talking about it. All the better. Now we've got more clarity. Okay. But the more you do these kinds of things to manage the expectations of people around you, and by managing them, I mean doing what you can to create their expectation of you and them, the more in sync you will be with the people around you, and the easier it will be to function in a professional way, because you're not tripping over people who are disappointed or frustrated with you, or you with them. Okay. All right. My name is Dr. John Sherk. This has been Brown Bag Lunch. I love reaching out to you guys. More and more of you are reaching out to me separately, privately, and it's great. I would love to spend 15 minutes with you. An old friend has reached out. I'm going to talk to him tomorrow, and I'm really looking forward to it. And I'm sure it's because of these things. So please feel free to reach out, get with me for 15 minutes, and we'll just get to know each other, catch up. We'll see you next week.